Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to welcome you back again in my hometown of Antwerp in our magnificent 16th century stock exchange. A year ago, I stood here only a few weeks into my mandate as Prime Minister, still wet behind the ears. And today, I'm a little bit less wet, but not less concerned. In recent weeks, I have had intensive discussions with many leaders of industry, many of them here present today among us. And frankly, those conversations were a cold shower. So again, I felt wet behind the ears. But at least I know I have to keep my powder dry. Last year, I said that Europe must never become an industrial museum. The birthplace of the Industrial Revolution cannot turn into a beautiful heritage park where visitors admire the prosperity of the past while the future is built elsewhere. The follow-up report to the Antwerp Declaration by Deloitte shows that 83% of the pillars meant to strengthen our competitiveness have seen no progress or even deterioration. When I say this, this is not an attack on the European Union and certainly not on the President of the Commission, who works relentlessly. But reality, unfortunately, is what it is. A recent report commissioned by CEFIC on the chemical sector, the backbone of the European industry, presents a chilling list of closures and declining investments. Over the past 4 years, announced closures in the European chemical industry increased sixfold, representing a loss of almost 10% of the European chemical production capacity. In countries like ours, Germany, the Netherlands and France, the situation is simply dramatic. We are at the brink of an existential crisis. And the reasons are well known. I've heard them all the afternoon: energy costs, overall competitiveness, regulation, and Chinese dumping. I'm not going to repeat what you all said. We all know we must change course, and we all know the direction. Yet, it sometimes feels like we're standing on the bridge of the ship, staring at the horizon without being able to touch the helm. So today, this is a call to arms. Let us take responsibility. No one else will do it for us. The people in this room will determine the future of European prosperity. In my own country, I made 3 promises to my industry: lower energy costs, more competitive labor costs, and simpler rules. And we have reduced structural labor cost handicaps. We have introduced compensation mechanism for energy-intensive companies, in which we used the new CSF instrument, and we have screened dozens of regulatory requirements. The Flemish region also, Matthias, has taken important steps, freeing budget to support industry, and also making permitting faster, more predictable and legally robust, potentially cutting lead times for major projects and increasing legal certainty for investors. These are all good steps, but they are not miracle solutions. They are choices. And they show that progress is possible, but we know that the road remains very long. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want to talk about the future of our industry, we must first believe that our industry is the future. A year ago, I was not convinced that this belief was yet widely shared. Today, I'm a bit less skeptical about that, but the growing belief must translate now into urgent action. And we must start from what is feasible, not from what is desirable. Everybody agrees on what we want. The real question is what is workable in practice to get there. Pragmatism is not a compromise. It is a precondition for resilience. Jacques Delors once said that the single market should serve as a triangle: economy, technology, and defense. And industry is the thread connecting these 3. Without industry, no technological leadership. Without technology, no defense capability. And without those 2, no strategic autonomy. If Europe neglects its industrial base, it does not only lose growth, it loses influence, and ultimately it will lose sovereignty. And so we require urgent action on 3 fronts. First, we need to give industry room to grow and not rules that hold it back. Carbon costs continue to rise, regardless of industrial growth. Definitions on what is green are sometimes so rigid that they slow down innovation rather than accelerate it. We need technological neutrality, including for hydrogen, carbon capture, nuclear energy, and other transition technologies. We should judge solutions by results, not by labels. On administrative simplification, cosmetic surgery will not be enough. We need shock therapy. That means measurable commitments. We must urgently accelerate the ambitious goal of reducing administrative burden on all businesses by 35% within this mandate, with fewer reporting obligations, faster permitting, and one-stop shops for strategic projects. In addition, we must review all legislative proposals to assess their impact on competitiveness. Freezing existing legislation or scaling back new regulation should not be a taboo. Much has been said about the Letta and Draghi reports. Yet, after 1 year, barely 1 in 10 of Draghi's recommendations has been implemented. And precisely in energy and digitalization, two decisive domains, progress has been the slowest. Meanwhile, the annual compendium of obstacles in the single market keeps getting thicker every year. So we seem to be finding or adding barriers faster than we remove them. Our labor productivity is already 20% lower than that of the United States. Today in the European Union, over twice as many people work on implementing and monitoring rules than on innovative research. 1.7% of our workforce is busy inventing the technology of the future to make our world more prosperous and more sustainable. In the meantime, 3.9% of our workforce is spending its days managing regulation. That is a horrific structural disadvantage we can simply not afford. We need an environment where our industry can move forward, not one where rules hold it back. Second front, where action is needed, we need partnerships that make us stronger, not dependencies that make us weaker. We do not want a Europe first, and certainly not a Europe alone. Personally, I prefer the slogan "Made with Europe" over the slogan "Made in Europe." Let us not copy another man's stupidity. Economic resilience does not mean isolation. It means strength to cooperation. We live in a world increasingly shaped by power politics. The United States and China both pursue industrial strategies built on scale, speed, and state support. They think in terms of winning and losing. Europe has always believed in win-win. The economy is not a zero-sum game, and that should remain our strength. But we must ensure that we do not turn ourselves into the losers of somebody else's game. In energy, for instance, we should not replace one dependency with another. In energy supply, critical raw materials, semiconductors, batteries, and defense equipment, we must diversify supply chains and secure reliable partners with whom we can trade on a level playing field. We cannot stand idly by while other countries, such as China, massively dump their goods on our market to the detriment of our businesses. We really cannot continue to respond to this by setting up working groups and calmly considering new rules. No, this requires a coherent, flexible, and above all, decisive and assertive approach now. Industry today is also security policy. The war in Ukraine has reminded us that steel, chemicals, chips, and energy are not abstract economical variables. They determine our capacity to defend ourselves. Many partners are eager to work with us. ASEAN countries, India, Canada, Australia, Mercosur, finally. We should move faster on trade agreements, and I thank the Commission President for all she's done for that. We should move faster on strategic partnerships, on supply chains, not out of ideology, but out of necessity. Third and final front. We want businesses to invest here, to build here, to expand here. But Europe accounts for barely 5% of global venture capital. The United States attracts roughly 10 times more. Too many of our scale-ups move abroad when they grow. We are already behind at the starting line. A true savings and investment union is essential for the long term, but in the short term, we must urgently accelerate our efforts to bring in and grow new, critical and strategic projects on European soil. The technological race is not a sprint, it is a hurdles race. So new players can catch up, and leaders can stumble. Europe may be lagging, but we're still very much in the game. We must actively attract and scale strategic projects. Clean tech, defense manufacturing, advanced materials, AI, life sciences. Europe can still make itself indispensable to build and expand such industries worldwide. Certainly, if we can also make a leap forward in integrating the European market, there are still so many barriers for trading services and goods within the EU itself. If we want to combine our need for investments with the ambition to create an ecosystem for sustainable technological innovation and growth, we need to bring down obstacles and capitalize on every opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe remains an attractive market. Democratic, rules-based, free market-oriented, stable and with respectful leadership. The rest of the world envies us, or a lot of the rest of the world still envies us for this, and also for our hundreds of millions of consumers and rich savings. And the rest of the world is surely watching us, some with goodwill, others with less benign intentions. If we want economic resilience, strategic strength and sustainable prosperity, a strong industrial base is indispensable. You are the key to prosperity. You are the key to power and influence to change the world for the better. And the momentum is now. With the next multi-annual financial framework ahead of us, we must set priorities. Europe must stop trying to do everything, everywhere, all at once. There's a clear trinity of top priorities: innovation, productivity, competitiveness. That is where our focus must be. If not, the decarbonization of Europe will become synonymous with its deindustrialization, and eventually with its poverty and its irrelevance. It's up to us. If we want Europe to matter in the world, our industry must matter first to us. I thank you.